Yes, motivation. Today we come up with a new topic called as motivation. How far the motivation is useful to the employees as well as to the students and or as an individual, how far it impacts in doing the work in an efficient and better way. Because without motivation, we cannot do the work in an efficient way. That means it may leads to dissatisfaction or discontentment. So, what is motivation and what are the theories that are related to this motivation? So, motivation, the internal and the external forces that lead the individual to work towards a goal. Motivation is nothing but it consists of two important elements. What is that? It consists of two important elements, that is internal and external factors. These two forces, these are called as internal external forces. What is meant by force? Which exerted to make the work done. So internal forces are personal forces and external forces are forces that can be a reward which gives stimulation to the individual to do the work. So this motivation can be is nothing but it is inherited by two important things. One is internal force and the second one is external force. So that lead an individual to work towards the goal. And motivation can affect the intensity. The most important thing is one is intensity, second one is direction, and third one is persistent. So motivation can affect three important factors or components, which is called as intensity, direction, and persistence. The three important factors that gets impacted by the motivation as or else that affects the work which you do is intensity, direction, and persistence. A person shows in working towards a goal. These are the three important things which if you do not do them in a proper way, without, if the lack of intensity may lead to some other thing, and if the lack of direction and if the lack of persistence may leads to the goal may not be reached by the individual. So let us see what is intensity, how far it impacts the motivation or else the goal of your individual, how far it impacts, and persistence. Let's see one by one. Intensity. What is meant by intensity? Intensity is concerned with how hard a person tries to do something or else to reach an objective. So intensity is nothing but is an external internal force, which intensity you should have intensity to do the work, or else you should have an intensity or else just to do something, then only you will be trying to do or achieve something. So intensity, this is what most of us focus on when we talk about motivation. While we are talking about motivation, most of the people will be talking about whether you are having that intensity to do that work or not. If you do not have that intensity, definitely it leads to dissatisfaction or unproductive work. So intensity is one of the important factor which is very important for reaching your goal. So however, high intensity, what happens if there is high intensity, is unlikely to positively affect the job performance unless the effect is channelized towards a direction. When intensity is clubbed with the direction, then only it gives a positive or effective work or positive output can be achieved. What is that? Intensity plus direction. So these are the two factors that may leads to positive results. When the high intensity plus direction will be giving you better outputs or efficient output. When there is an intensity but there is no guidance or there is no direction, you don't know how to do the work in a proper way, then it also leads to, even though you are having intensity to do the work, but still the output will be unproductive or ineffective. So let us see finally the effect requires persistence. What is that? We need persistence. Persistence, what do you mean by persistence? It is durability. How far this is a measure of how long a person can maintain his or her efforts, how far a person can maintain his or effect. It is nothing but durability, how far he can he can maintain the same intensity, the same direct towards a goal. So that is called as persistence. Motivated individuals stay with a task long enough to achieve their goals. When a person is having high motivation, that individual is having all these factors. One is intensity, second one is direction, and third one is persistence. Persistence means until and unless he completes the work, he will get motivated. He will be on the same goal with the same intensity in the proper direction. Then only we can say that he can reach the goal in an effective manner. All right. So next, if you go, so many people incorrectly view motivation as personal trait. Based upon this personal trait, the concept of whenever you are treating this motivation as a personal trait, based upon that, so it may possessed by somebody, it may not have somebody. That means some of the individuals may have this motivation as a personal trait, some do not have motivation. That means you are talking about two different types of personality. The person who is having motivation will be very persistent, very intended towards the goal, and is having a direction, or else will have a guidance. So if a person is having this motivation as a personal trait, how he will be? He is a positively motivated person, and he is self-radiant person, or self-actualized person, self-esteemed person. He doesn't have any leader to externally force him to do the work. So here we are talking about two different types of personalities. When a motivation is treated as a personal trait, with as intentions of the Douglas McGregor, who has treated the motivation as a personal trait and has given two different assumptions about two different individuals or two different personalities based upon this motivation as a personal trait. So in 1960, Douglas McGregor wrote The Human Side of Enterprise. This is a book which is written by this McDouglas. Okay, Douglas McGregor, he has written Human Side of Enterprise, which has become an important philosophical base for modern view of people at workplace. In his book, he has given two different types of personalities. Theory X, based upon which motivation as a personal trait. Based upon motivation as a personal trait, he has given two different types of personalities. So let us see, and he has named positive as theory Y, and the person who doesn't have motivation as a personal trait, he will be treated as theory Y.